Welcome, everybody, to our 50th virtual episode. In early March, we had no idea that Ars Lyrica would be headed down this path towards virtual content delivery with our patrons. But we have to adjust to the times, and in mid-March, we decided that going virtual was the thing to do. We have taped numerous programs since then in our community through music series, on the Musical Moments platform, on the Concerts and Conversations platform. We've had some virtual productions. Notably, in May, we had a season finale that was a virtual Phoebus and Pan. We've done a recent musical program for Bastille Day, which was fun to put together. And around that, various episodes of Baroque Cocktails on Wednesday nights at 6. So there's been a variety of virtual content, which we've been really happy to share with you. It's given us a renewed and reinvigorated sense of mission, because we're now sharing music in a new way, charting some waters that we never thought we would tread. And I'm delighted to have here with me today my three Ars Lyrica colleagues, Executive Director Kinga Ferguson, and Kathleen Staton and Emma Wine, who round out the team, producing our virtual content, keeping us administratively sane, and tending to all the kinds of details that nonprofits need to tend to. So welcome, everyone.
Thank you, Matthew. Thanks, and hi, Kathleen and Emma. When I look back at this first episode, we taped Matthew's harpsichord concert from his home. It was March 13th. By that time, we already had a plan in place. And it was amazing because since they announced that the Rice University would be closing, I think it was around March 8th, we started planning, we started pivoting. And instead of, going into the gloom mode, we were, as Matthew said, invigorated and really motivated by this new challenge. We decided immediately that we are going to go virtual. And this was really a very special subscription concert because we broadcasted it on March 14th, but we had a little roundtable discussion and shared our plans and vision for the future. And I remember, and Kathleen will probably remind us about what we were saying, but I know that collectively we decided that going virtual will be like a bridge from the existing audiences to new audiences. And we had a deep sense of community, that we have to stay connected. We have to stay connected not just with the artists and our audiences, but with our partners, with Houston community at large, with arts organizations nationally. And what we've been doing since was this continuation of the plan that we had back then. But what helped us, I think, with this very concrete vision was the support that our patrons showed us. I remember our gala chairs, Robin Angley and Miles Smith, called me the night before and they pledged their support. They said, this is going to impact you as the organization, but most importantly, the artists, because they're going to lose professional connections, they're going to lose income. We have to jump in and support them. And they're truly philanthropic visionaries. They anticipated different scenarios. And I feel strongly that's what we've been doing as the organization, as this team. We've been anticipating different scenarios. We are in a scenario planning constantly. We're adapting to those changing times. But what Miles and Robin did for us was really giving us the substance and the show of support. They pledged very generous matching grant, which allowed us to then create the Artist Support Fund so we could pay the artists for canceled programs, and also supported the community through music programming. So big kudos to them, great thanks. And many donors followed this plea. And that's why we've been able to do what we've been doing, producing excellent programming. We pledge to you, our audiences, that we'll continue to produce meaningful programs, not just performances, but conversations with the artists, roundtable discussions, very intimate conversations. So thanks to Robin, Miles, and all the supporters, we've been able to be with you, and thanks for that.
One of the things I love so much about Robin and Miles was that they didn't just open their checkbook, but they opened their home. And they were part of our very first pioneering virtual gala as active co-hosts. They probably had more to do as co-hosts of that gala than any other gala that they would have been on in their roles being on the broadcast, which of course, I just have to mention that one of my favorite things about that was Miles asked us if it would be okay if he switched ties for every single session of dialogue that he did. And so there was always this pause while we had to have the quick change, the wardrobe change, while Miles pulled out another. What was the total? Was it 7, I think?
Close to that, 6 or 7, I think.
And they even offered opera tickets to one of the people who had caught the gambit and then told us what it was. So yeah, we appreciate them not just for their fiscal generosity, but for their continued and ongoing support in so many ways.
That's right. Their engagement is amazing. They've been supporting so many artists, and their leadership, and you know, the fact that they called me on March 12th and they had a plan and they said, this is going to impact you. This is going to impact the artists. We cannot let you go down. We are going to support Ars Lyrica and other Houston's organizations so you can survive and you can thrive at the end of this crisis. So with this vision, we were able to do 50 episodes of Community Through Music. Yes, it's our 50th anniversary. I feel so young.
We look good for 50, don't you think?
Yes. Maybe our median age is 50. Maybe less than that.
Hey, way less, Kinga, way less.
So I remember at our first roundtable 4 months ago, we were so grateful for the donor support, and we continue to be just floored by their generosity and support, not just financially, but their engagement, their comments, their good advice. So we constantly think about them, our audience members, our generous patrons, our Opera Circle underwriters, and most importantly, our Artist Support Fund donors who make it all possible. So thank you once again from the bottom of our hearts. And I just wanted to share that in the last few weeks, we've been experiencing the outpouring of support, and we've received so many notes of encouragement and generous donations. And this is wonderful because this shows us that you believe in us and you want us to continue with our mission. And we in turn want to reassure you that we want to share this beautiful music with you, even if we have to change the channels of communication in our performance platforms. We are here with you, and we invite you to be in this conversation with us.
Yep, big round of applause. You've enabled all of this over the last several months.
So Community Through Music, while it is a bridge between audiences and artists and all of the Houston arts community and beyond, it started as an idea with the calls that our staff were making to check in with our artist friends. How are they doing? How are they coping? And I was absolutely floored and blown away by the attitudes of these people who are hardest hit in so many ways by the loss of work and income. And the inspiration, the patience, the positive attitude, and just this incredible, beautiful willingness to continue. I just felt like these check-in calls were something that needed to be shared with a bigger audience. And it was then that we started discussing the how. How could we share this? How could it benefit our artists? And that was where Community Through Music was born. We've all had opportunities to participate in this series. It was important to Kinga that we each have a voice as the staff, and also to include so many of our artist family. We've had roundtable discussions, educational episodes, playlists, conversations, concerts, and broadcasts. Some of these broadcasts have garnered thousands of views across the world. Some of our education episodes have too. Emma, can you talk a little bit about the Ceci and Jesus Storytime episode? That was such a groundbreaking moment for us as an organization.
Yeah, so we talked to our main stage and outreach artist friends, Ceci and Jesus, to create an episode of musical moments for us in which they read a story in English and Spanish. And they found this book about an artist during the Italian Renaissance, and decided that as well as reading it in English and Spanish, they would accompany it with music from the Italian Renaissance, which was the genesis of an ongoing series that we're producing now, Musical Storytime. But the first episode was absolutely incredible. They knocked it out of the park. Ceci was singing multiple lines and layering them on top of each other. Jesus was playing multiple instruments, and this was all not even in the foreground. It was background music to this story, and the amount of passion and time and enthusiasm they put into the project was so palpable in the final product itself, which has over 2,000 views on Facebook and YouTube combined now. They've shared it with teacher friends in Spain and Mexico and the US, and have gotten so much fantastic feedback for it. And it was just an absolutely inspiring process to be able to say, hey, I think we have this idea, would you be willing to help us? And to have them just go off, do their thing, and create this really incredible product for us.
It's been great to see our artists take the reins really, and be creative in ways that they haven't really pursued before. I mean, none of us have, well, not many of us at least, have been doing virtual programs until recently. We, of course, put artists on the stage all the time with the idea that they will create something interesting and compelling that people will want to come to and watch and listen to. But doing something virtually is a rather different proposition. You have to be concerned about things like lighting, placement, your own camera angles, exactly what kind of story it is you want to tell in, say, a 20 or a 30-minute framework on your own, largely. So that's a very different kind of project, and we're delighted that so many of our artists have taken the bull by the horns here and run with it and created content that's not only worth our time and your time, but which really advances the art in some interesting ways. So that's been one of the great silver linings of this pandemic for us, is we're discovering some talents that we didn't know about before.
Matthew, what were some of your favorite interactions with artists in the episodes that you participated in?
I think my personal favorite would be the Reimagined Phoebus and Pan that we did in May as a substitute for the final subscription program. This was an effort that took the participation of a lot of people, not just the cast that we hired for that particular production, but the cast that sang the 2008 production that we did, which we luckily had a really good audio tape of. And so we spliced bits and pieces from the 2008 performance into some of the artists from the current cast who were singing virtually, sometimes with some accompaniment from me, sometimes with accompaniment from other people who've been hired to play. And so putting that together was kind of a fascinating process, a way of looking at Phoebus and Pan through time across 12 years, and also with very different people and in very different contexts, treating each aria and each section of the piece in its own unique way. It made for a very special broadcast.
This is definitely a silver lining, that we can connect with so many people from globally, from different countries, and invite them to the same room. I think that the biggest advantage of community through music is truly building a community, not just in Houston, but beyond, and connecting them in new ways, in more intimate ways. Because in a concert hall, we always have this barrier of space. right here, you know, I see each one of you so clearly, right? We have this very intimate conversation, and, you know, we can jump in and comment on each other's thoughts in real time. And that's what we want from our audiences. We want you to engage in this conversation. That's why we broadcast on Facebook and YouTube and our website simultaneously. So people who don't have access to social media, they can still enjoy on our website. But people who use Facebook and YouTube, they can comment. And we have up to 200 comments per broadcast, which is amazing. It's amazing to hear from you and what you think about this programming, and also what you want to hear in the future. And national surveys on virtual programming say that we love virtual content for this sense of community and for intimacy. And we've been experiencing it with our audience members. We are looking for, of course, scholarly programs because we have such great resources in Matthew and our artists, but we also look for distraction, something more lighthearted. We look for a cocktail conversation with our friends, and hey, we have Baroque cocktails every other Wednesday with Matthew and friends. But also, to me, my favorite bits, I mean, I've loved them all, but my favorite programs were really focused on learning something new and discovery and experience something new that we were not offering in Zilka Hall. So I love Catherine Turossi's minuet lesson via Zoom. I usually do yoga at home on my own on Saturday mornings, but I thought, oh, it would be fun to refresh my minuet skills. So, you know, I joined and I had so much fun. Everything was hurting afterwards, but so I got a good stretch. And of course, Ceci and Jesus programs inspired us to create a multi-language, multicultural series with other languages. We are doing another Spanish episode. We are doing an episode in Russian. I have my own plans to bring bits of my culture and maybe doing an episode of Polish astronomer Nicholas Copernicus and the music of the sphere. So we can truly bring the cosmopolitan composition of our city and present different cultures, different languages in those programs, which wouldn't be possible otherwise. So the internet and the Zoom and the technology that we are investing in connects us. And my other favorite was, Kathleen, your program on mapping Handel, because we've dedicated 2 seasons to European Grand Tour, but you explain the concept so beautifully with artwork and fun anecdotes from Handel's life. My other favorite episode was Emma's Think Like a Composer. And, you know, this is the strength of our team. We have this incredible musical leadership and vision in Matthew. I can't even start of, you know, singing praises to his genius, but we also have a fresh perspective from Emma, who is like 2-3 generations apart from us, and she's the face of our young professional group, but she brings her expertise as a composer. So your episode, Emma, was analysis of different songs, but you broke it down to basics. Anybody can understand it. So this is a part of our newcomer series, when Ars Lyrica is making programs accessible for anybody, for the newcomer. So you broke it down, very complicated composition elements, into something that we can all understand. My 10-year-old daughter loved your analysis of Frozen 2 song. So everybody can join. We are finding new ways to connect to people, but also offering diverse entertainment within this programming. So again, my favorite programs were programs where I could learn something new. Annette Richards talked about those inventions. I mean, this was fascinating. So please, I hope you audience members are taking notes and go back to our YouTube channel and watch those programs again with us, and please comment.
Well, and actually that brings me to Concert and Conversations, which has been my favorite series. It's our most watched series. And for me, it's the ultimate combination of music and storytelling and that behind the scenes aspect that you get with Baroque Cocktails, which of course is informal, but the Concert and Conversations goes deeper. So it's everything, learning, music, discussion, and getting behind the scenes with artists, whether we're talking to the builders and the behind the scenes people who make historical performance possible, or if we're talking to artists like Arya Nussbaum-Cohen, who made tons of time for Ars Lyrica to talk with us. Some other favorite artists, I know Joanna Latini for you, Emma, was a meaningful interview. Matthew, what was your favorite Concert and Conversations? Your Sway Link, the very first one, the Sway Link episodes and the One Film from Your House were some of our most popular of all time.
Yeah, the Sway Link was fun. I did enjoy the conversation with Annette Richards as well. King had just mentioned when we were talking about musical instruments like the glass harmonica, a fairly exotic device that we featured on a subscription program here a couple of years ago, and we were able to look back at some videos and sample some other music on that program as well. Annette's an old friend from Cornell. We went through the graduate program together at Stanford, so it was really nice to see her and have an in-depth chat about 18th century intersections between music, monarchy, and musical inventions. It was quite wide-ranging and a lot of fun. That's been a great way for me personally to spend the summer, to help staff dream up, invent this kind of programming. And it's also been really wonderful to rely on such a deeply musical staff. We're really lucky that we have 4 people here who all have significant musical expertise in one area or another. And we've relied on it a lot this summer for these virtual programs, and it's been really great.
In the end, though, it's our artists who we rely on the most.
One of the best things about the virtual programming we've been doing is that we've been able to reconnect with a lot of artists who we haven't seen in a while, and engage in depth in conversation with some who we do feature on a regular basis. Ars Lyrica has always been about nurturing local talent in Houston. That is to say, a nucleus of string wind players on Baroque instruments who made the choice to go there to pick up, say, a fiddle with gut strings or an old woodwind instrument and figure out how to use it, get some instruction, attain some expertise. And it's been great to see over the last really couple of decades an enormous rise in expertise and talent locally, which has been great for the band, for the ensemble. We're also really lucky to live in a city that has abundant vocal talent, with a couple of universities that have very strong opera programs, with a major opera company downtown, with a studio program that we've partnered with on numerous occasions to feature their artists in productions of ours. HGO has been a really great partner in that respect, and we've been able to help launch the careers of some significant talent, from people like Jamie Barton to Arya Nussbaum-Cohen, and others who've been featured on our programs, on some recordings. That's one of the great advantages of living in a place like Houston, where there is a superabundance of musical talent. That plus the occasional guest artist, and we've been able to offer more here than practically anywhere else I can think of on a comparable scale in the US. It's also put us in a good position for our virtual programs because we're able to reach out to a large stable of artists to get their feedback, to find out from them what they might want to do on a virtual program. We're in conversations with a number of people, for example, for fall virtual programming. These were individuals who we'd already spoken to about playing on fall programs that have now shifted to virtual content, so we don't need them to be in Houston necessarily, but we're offering them virtual programs as a way of using their talents in some way, maybe not in the way we anticipated in February of this year when the program got finalized.
Matthew, you're scooping our big season reveal that is going to come later in this episode.
Got it. We'll just mention this possibility for future virtual programming. You'll be seeing a lot of artists this year in some unusual contexts, and that is exciting news.
So not only is there a depth of talent and musical viability here in Houston, but there's an incredible environment that is very unique to this city. We've talked about it in other episodes. It's that coming together, that partnership aspect of working across the city, across genres, and that spirit of collaboration that I've seen nowhere else. Emma, can you tell us a little bit about the important partnerships that Ars Lyrica has been a part of?
Yeah, so I graduated from Rice, and I happened to be there at the same time as a lot of artists from the 2019-20 season. But when I was there, I was a composer and they were instrumentalists, and there was a big gap that I was not confident enough to bridge at that point. And even when people like Alana Yousefian and Joanna Latini came back for performances for the 1920 season, I felt like it was so much more about getting people to the right place at the right time and making sure they had everything they needed. So it's been really incredible to reconnect with these people over a virtual platform and kind of get to know them better in a way, and become friends rather than just colleagues. I had an incredible chat with Alana and another one with Joanna, and one of the best things about it was that I found through my conversation with them that they were vulnerable in ways that I wasn't expecting. This pandemic has wreaked havoc on the arts field, and they were both so open with me about their fears and about their anxieties and about how they didn't sing or play for the first couple of months of the pandemic, and it took a while for them to kind of come to terms with it. And it was so nice to hear that we weren't the only ones who were freaking out, but also that they once they did come to terms with it, had these moments of creation of new things. I remember Alana had a live concert where she played the most beautiful Bach solo I have ever heard, and that Joanna, one night she called up an accompanist friend of hers and sang a piece from a musical theater song that she really loved. And it's kind of those moments of discovery and rediscovery of things that you're passionate about that I was so interested to know more about how being isolated and not being able to play with other people had affected them. And it affected them in a lot of different ways. But like Matthew was saying, this is an incredible opportunity for people to be creative and innovative and go back to things that maybe they hadn't looked at in a while. And coming up on, actually it would have been yesterday now that this aired. So as of yesterday, I had this episode of Musical Moments where I got together a bunch of my friends and colleagues from Houston and beyond to chat about the future of the arts. So I had a conductor, a couple instrumentalists, a composer friend who's living in LA doing film music, a photographer, and a marketing person from Fresh Arts here in Houston. And it was so fun to get to know these people better, to introduce them to each other, and then to talk about projects that we could all do together. And throughout the conversation, it started to feel more natural, and people started referring to each other who they'd never met in person before, but referring to each other by first name and butting in and conversing with each other in a really lovely way that made me feel so connected to the community, and made me feel like even through a pandemic, there was still so many opportunities to get to know people better and to introduce them to each other and create kind of a larger whole of an arts community. And it was so important for me to have those conversations and for us to all realize that we are more connected than we know.
Yeah, it's important to have kind of long-term historical perspective on something like this. Out of the Black Death, after all, in the 14th century came the Renaissance.
Speaking of Renaissance, out of needing to change our current season plan of turning points because the artists can't get here, we still are uncertain even today about when we'll be back in our home, the best acoustics in Houston, Zilkha Hall. We've had to continue to reinvent and evolve and get ready for that Renaissance. Matthew, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yes, we've reimagined the coming season. We'll be releasing details soon. Suffice it to say for the moment that we will have subscription programs that are virtually produced for at least the first few programs in the fall, September and October. By December, who knows, we might be able to welcome a small audience. That is yet to be decided, but we have shifted to a virtual model for at least the first couple. They will be different programs than we had originally advertised. We are simply rescheduling several programs that we'd announced for the season for next season. So for 2021, 2022. And more details about all of these changes will be released soon once we've worked out a few more details.
So we'll be turning points will be next season and this upcoming season. As we walk into the unknown with you, we have a season called
Side by Side.
Side by Side, with some incredible programming that explores dichotomies and juxtapositions, very in tune with the Baroque, and also walking side by side with you virtually and in the concert hall, hopefully again soon. That was Kinga's favorite line from our opening episode, right? You wanted to say, "See you in Zilkha Hall."
Yes, I can say it again. But in the meantime, please stay with us. We can guarantee that we'll provide entertaining, meaningful programming throughout this crisis until we can meet again in Zilkha Hall. And to current subscribers, please keep your subscriptions as is, because we'll have some amazing offerings for you. And we're going to reach out to everybody and answer all the questions that you may have. So please don't hesitate to reach out to Kathleen, Emma, or myself if you have any questions about programming, and or if you just want to share how you feel, or if you need some help. We'll be here for you. So please stay with us through this. We can only get through this with you. And again, thank you so much for your support, for believing on our mission, for believing in Ars Lyrica and our team. And we assure you that we'll be with you as well.
In fact, I'm very much looking forward to this season. We've been able to reprogram some pieces that I've always wanted to return to, that I've played before, and some other works that I haven't gotten to know yet. We have an exciting list of artists lined up and some fabulous music making. So join us in the fall.
Oh, you teased us there, Matthew. You have to tell us at least one of your favorites that you haven't gotten to perform and one that you are.
Well, there's a couple of Bach double harpsichord concerti on one program. We'll be featuring on that program, with any luck, a new harpsichord that I commissioned from my favorite builder in California that is on its way here right now. So stay tuned for details about that. It's a spectacular looking instrument, especially. It's got a really elaborate decoration scheme, which is detailed in one of our concerts and conversations. So if you're curious to see it, go look at the one that features the builder, John Phillips.
It's the art of building.
Yes, it's an amazing episode. It was a wonderful conversation with both John and Janine Johnson, who's been working for him for a long time, who does all the decoration on these instruments. Another program that features some music that we haven't necessarily looked at very closely, though it's been on my short list for a long time, is a Handel cantata for two singers that we're thinking about for the spring. It's a wonderful pastoral tale featuring a couple of sopranos in a sumptuous piece with some arias that will sound familiar to some of our patrons because they were reused the very next year in Agrippina.
Handel, the master rearranger. Although your episode was Bach the arranger that you did at the St. Philip organ, right?
Handel did even more of it.
Borrowing and sourcing, right?
He was an expert at adaptation of all kinds, from himself, from other people. He produced a ton of music. They all did in the early 18th century. And borrowing and transforming were sort of a day's work.
Well, all of this is in a day's work for the Ars Lyrica team. We are so delighted to have had you with us along the way and hope you'll continue to join us. Our virtual subscription program is launching coming up. You can find out more information about it on our website. You can join just the series that are most meaningful to you, whether that's social, concert broadcasts, or programs like Concert and Conversations, or you can buy the whole package, which of course is a great deal, and make sure that you have access to everything that we have going on this year. All of the series will continue, and they each have their own target audience. So if you're looking for that backstage VIP experience where you can have a glass of wine and chat with Matthew Durst about his artistic vision and talk to our singers, who I can't think of any other place you'd have access to ask them, hey, what's your daily routine? Or do you have a dog? Or what's your favorite composer? Any of those things are all fair game at Baroque Cocktails. And again, great thanks to people like Robin Angley and Miles Smith, who have made it possible for our education programming to be free and available to anyone who would like to access it. So again, more information on our website, www.arslyricahhouston.org.
We want to see you in the fall, so stay well, wash your hands, wear your mask, be careful, and enjoy the music.